Welcome back to Wickedly Judged, the podcast and movement dedicated to exposing wrongful convictions and advocating for real justice reform. I'm your host, Rebecca. Whether you're a longtime listener or joining us for the first time, thank you for being a part of this vital community. Wickedly Judged was born out of my own personal fight for justice, and our mission is to shine a light on the flaws in our justice system through research, storytelling, and action. Over the last 2 episodes, we've taken a deep dive into one of the most troubling cases we've covered so far, the story of Doug Wicker and the relentless advocacy of his wife, Mary. Today, as we recap and reflect on their journey, we'll talk about the dangerous laws that threaten every American's rights, the urgent need for justice reform, the power of community advocacy, and what you can do to join this fight for change. Together, we can make a difference. I would like to give a special thanks to Veterans Alliance for sponsoring this podcast episode. Without you, none of this would be possible. And a shout out to JP Verse of Versefire Records for our intro and outro music. Your talent is amazing, and we couldn't be more thankful. Also, check out our website at wickedlyjudged.com and purchase our merchandise. Read our blog that has to do with every case that we've covered so far, or just learn how you can be a part of the reform movement. Now, grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's recap the case of Doug Wicker, guilty by hearsay. This journey begins in 2015 in Ingham County, Michigan, when Mary and her husband Doug made the decision to take in their great niece after her mother's struggles with heroin addiction. The young girl had been living in a chaotic and unstable environment, but under Mary and Doug's care, she began to thrive. Her behavior improved dramatically, and for nearly a year, she lived in a safe and loving home. After 11 months, however, the girl returned to her mother's care, and things quickly unraveled. Her mother continued to use heroin and eventually overdosed and passed away. The girl's life spiraled into chaos, and after reconnecting with her father, a man with a criminal history who had just been released from prison, things took an even darker turn. During a visit with her father's family, one of his relatives mentioned being molested, and the girl suddenly claimed that she had been abused as well. Initially, her story was very vague. She described the abuse as just touching and said it was something she remembered in a moment of panic. Over time, however, her story grew more elaborate, and she eventually accused Doug of being the perpetrator. Despite a complete lack of physical evidence or any corroborating witnesses, Michigan law allowed the case to move forward based solely on the accuser's word. During the trial, the judge even instructed the jury that all you need to convict is her word. This shocking statement, combined with a biased prosecutor and a jury that couldn't even stay awake during the 6-day trial, resulted in a guilty verdict. Mary and Doug were devastated. They were, however, offered a plea deal that would have included a 1-year sentence. But despite the overwhelming pressure to accept this deal, Doug chose to fight for his innocence. The consequences have been heartbreaking. Not only was he sentenced to 25 years to life as a first-time offender, but the emotional and financial toll on their family has been immense. It is only their faith in God and following His word that keeps them in the fight. Since the trial, Mary has been relentless in her fight for justice. She's worked tirelessly to uncover inconsistencies in the accuser's story. And with the help of an appellate attorney, she's pushing for a mistrial. A critical hearing was scheduled for June 2nd and had to be rescheduled to June 3rd because 2 of the jurors didn't even show up. On June 3rd, the motion for a mistrial was denied, but their fight still goes on. Beyond her family's case, Mary has become a powerful advocate for justice reform. As we recap the last 2 episodes, it's impossible not to be moved by the deeply personal story that Mary has shared with us. This is about so much more than a single legal case. It's about the ongoing uphill battle for justice for not only Doug Wicker, but others as well who remain wrongfully convicted in not only Michigan, but nationwide. Mary's unwavering love and determination have been evident in every moment. She walked us through the events leading up to Doug's conviction, the heartbreak and frustration that followed, and her tireless efforts to clear his name. Her courage in reliving these painful memories for our listeners is a testament to her strength and to the urgency of her case. Mary opened up about the devastating impact Doug's wrongful conviction has had on their family. Mary shared with me that she can't even go to family events because her family is divided because of Doug's conviction. Everyday moments, milestones that have been lost, replaced by years of waiting, hoping, and fighting against a system that got it so tragically wrong. The emotional toll is immense. Mary described the loneliness, the stigma, and the feeling of being powerless in the face of a justice system that refuses to listen. Doug's absence is felt every single day. The pain of fighting for someone you love when the odds seem stacked against you is something no family should have to endure. Mary's story reminds us that wrongful convictions aren't just legal errors. They're life-altering tragedies that ripple through families and communities, leaving scars that may never fully heal. But perhaps the most shocking and urgent part of Doug's story is the Michigan law that made his wrongful conviction possible. In Michigan, a person can be convicted and sent to prison on nothing more than the word of an accuser. No physical evidence, no corroboration, no witnesses. Just a simple accusation. Now let that sink in. Under current Michigan law, someone's entire future can be taken away based solely on what another person says, even if there is no evidence to support the claim at all. This is the law that destroyed Doug and Mary's life and upended their world. But this just isn't a Michigan problem. It's a threat to every American. Every citizen in this country should be deeply afraid of how easily this law can be abused. It is fundamentally unconstitutional. It violates the right to due process and the right to a fair trial. rights that are guaranteed to every American under the Constitution. Convicting someone without evidence undermines the presumption of innocence, erodes the foundation of justice, and makes it frighteningly easy for innocent people to lose their freedom. If it can happen to Doug, it can happen to anyone. No one is immune to the dangers of a system that values accusation over proof, conviction over innocence. Laws like this put innocent people at risk every single day and make it far too easy for miscarriages of justice to occur. This law must be challenged and it must be changed, not just for Doug, but for every person who could one day find themselves in his place. This brings us to the heart of what Wickedly Judged stands for. Justice reform. Justice reform is about more than correcting individual cases. It's about fixing the underlying problems that allow those cases to happen in the first place. It's about getting rid of absolute immunity, where the prosecutors and the judges and the police cannot be held liable or accountable for their actions. It means examining how laws are written and enforced, how evidence is weighed in a trial, and how fairness is ensured at every stage of the legal process, beginning with the investigation. Justice reform matters because our system is only as strong as its ability to protect the innocent and hold the guilty accountable based on facts, not fear or bias. Based on real, tangible evidence, not something the prosecutor made up. Based on physical evidence, not just somebody's accusation. When laws allow for convictions without evidence, or when systemic issues like prosecutorial misconduct, inadequate defense, or racial bias go unaddressed, the result is a justice system that fails everyone. We all want to believe that if we or someone we love were accused of a crime, we'd get a fair trial and a real chance to defend ourselves. But as Doug's story shows, that's not the reality. Justice reform is about restoring that promise, not just in Michigan, but across the entire country. It's about making sure that every American's rights are protected and that our system lives up to its ideals. Mary and Doug's story is a call to action. It's not enough to feel sympathy or outrage. We must demand change. Laws that allow for conviction without evidence not only destroy lives, they violate the very principles that this country was founded on. They erode trust in our courts, devastate families, and leave innocent people behind bars while the real truth is ignored. If you take anything at all away from these episodes, let it be this. These laws must be challenged and changed. We must stand up and say that evidence matters, that truth matters, and that everyone deserves a fair shot at justice and a real defense. Justice reform is not a political issue. It's a human issue, and it affects every single one of us. Mary refuses to give up. She's become a passionate advocate for justice reform, especially in Michigan, using her own experience to help others and to spotlight the urgent need for change. She's not just fighting for Doug. She's fighting for every family who could face this same nightmare. If you want to dive deeper into Doug's case, learn more about Mary's advocacy work, or even support their fight, go visit her website, guiltybyhearsay.com. There you'll find detailed information about Doug's case, updates on their legal efforts, and resources for getting involved. You can also join Mary's Facebook group, Guilty by Hearsay. It's a supportive community where you can connect with others who care about justice reform. Stay updated on Doug's case and be part of this conversation for change. Your support means everything to families like the Wickers. So please, don't stay silent. Get involved, because this could happen to you. Doug's story, as told by Mary, is a stark reminder that wrongful convictions happen more often than most people even realize. They are not just isolated mistakes. They are symptoms of deeper flaws in our justice system. And with laws like Michigan's, those flaws become gaping holes that anyone can fall through. Here at Wickedly Judged, our mission is to shine a light on these injustices, to give families like the Wickers a voice, and to fight for real reform. Every story we share, every case we investigate, and every episode we produce is about inspiring change and empowering others to take action. We believe that by raising awareness, educating our community, and advocating for legislative reform, we can help prevent future tragedies and bring hope to those that are still seeking justice. If Mary and Doug's story moved you, don't let it end here. You have the power to make a difference, and there are many ways that you can help. Educate yourself and others. Learn about wrongful convictions, the flaws in the justice system, and the importance of evidence-based trials. Share what you learn with friends, family, and your community. Visit wickedlyjudged.com. Explore our ongoing case investigations. Learn more about our advocacy work and read our blog, The Reform Advocate, for in-depth stories and updates. Support the mission. Check out our merchandise. Every purchase directly helps fund our investigations, our advocacy efforts, and outreach. Join the conversation. Follow us on social media. Share our episodes and invite friends and family to listen. Your voice helps amplify the call for justice reform and brings more awareness to these critical issues. Get involved. If you have a story to share, want to volunteer, or need support, reach out to wickedlyjudged@gmail.com, or you can call us 513-393-7452. Support Mary and Doug. Visit guiltybyhearsay.com and join the Guilty by Hearsay Facebook group to follow Doug's case, connect with advocates, and see how you can make a difference in Michigan and nationwide. Advocate for change. Speak up about the dangers of laws that violate due process and the right to a fair trial. Contact your legislators and demand evidence-based justice in your state. Share Doug's story and Mary's advocacy with your community to help spark conversations and push for legal reform. Donate or volunteer. Many organizations working for justice reform rely on grassroots support. Whether it's financial contributions, volunteering your time, or simply spreading the word, your involvement matters. Every voice sparks change. Justice reform is a movement that needs all of us. Ordinary people who believe in fairness, truth, and second chances. Thank you so much for joining us for these emotional and important episodes. Thank you to Mary for her courage, her honesty, and her relentless advocacy, not just for Doug, but for countless others still waiting for justice. We also want to extend a special thank you to our sponsors. Your support makes it possible for us to continue shining a light on wrongful convictions, produce these episodes, and expand our advocacy efforts. We are grateful to partner with organizations and individuals who believe in justice reform and share our mission to inspire change. Remember, wrongful convictions can happen to anyone. Laws that allow people to be convicted with no evidence are a threat to us all. They are unconstitutional and violate the very rights that protect every single American citizen. Real change starts with awareness and action, and you can be a part of that movement. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to tune in next week as we continue to uncover the truth and fight for justice. As always, stay vigilant, stay informed, and stay hopeful, because nobody deserves to be wickedly judged.